Welcome back to 110 Daily on the 110 Sports Network. Josh Dorian, Chris Brown. I apologize. I had the mic muted. I was trying to, take a sip of water or something and save the ears of the viewers and not have to listen to that. And then forgot to unmute my mic. So if I've been talking, I was saying some really great stuff. I promise you, I was saying some incredible stuff, but you didn't get to hear it, and I feel really bad for you actually. No. But welcome back to 110 Daily on the 110 Sports Network. Real quick, the fact that Deshaun Watson doesn't have a good football team or any weapons is just a tragedy. He was first in passing yards, first in yards per attempt, and second in passer rating. And that's with the uninspiring, we'll call it, weapons at his disposal and just the not good football team that he's on right now. It really is, and I said this yesterday, that it's one of the sadder parts of the NFL right now that he is on a bad football team because he's so good. He really is. And of course, I think, he's still very young, and at some point we'll get Deshaun Watson on a good football team again, whether that's with the Texans or hopefully with the Texans, if not elsewhere. But the point being is that the dude was really good this year. I just saw it on Twitter. He was just on a bad football team, and that makes me a little sad.
Yeah, hate to waste that talent. And from a perspective, just like you want to see that guy get a real shot with real weapons around him.
So maybe Deshaun Watson is the loser of the NFL season, but we'll do winners and losers for a much shorter period of time and a much more recent period of time. Winners and losers from the weekend. Mr. Doring, we'll start with you. Who's your winner?
I'm going a little bit out into left field here.
Oh boy,
the winner
is it San Francisco?
No.
Well, that's what you said the last time you were going out to left field, is that you're picking Gonzaga and San Francisco as your most interesting game. So I thought maybe you're returning and finding a way to give them your winner. But okay, sorry. Who's your winner?
My winner is Mike Locksley and the Maryland Terrapins football program.
That is left field.
Landed the nation's number one linebacker, Terrence Lewis, this weekend. Last season, they had the 31st recruiting class in the country, according to 24/7. Right now, this one, with the addition of Lewis, is even better than that. Mike Locksley is doing this the right way. I love coaches that I feel like really, really care about their players and care about their players as people above all else. Mm-hmm. I become huge fans of these guys. Tom Allen at Indiana. And I also believe that it breeds success. Look at what they're doing in Bloomington right now. Of course, Maryland has a long way to go, but I encourage people to read up on Mike Locksley, some of the things that he's been through. Of course, that program has been through an incredible amount. He's not taking any shortcuts. He's not cutting corners. He's building relationships with his players first, and it pays off when you get guys like the number one linebacker in the country to go play for you. So good for Mike Locksley. Good for the Maryland Terrapins.
There were so many sports this weekend, and you with the team that didn't play a sport this weekend. I'm impressed.
That's right.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I think, Maryland only played 5 games this year, the Maryland football, that is, and they were 2-3, right? They had a game against Ohio State canceled, but they had 2 games against Michigan State canceled, a game against Michigan canceled. We talked about how this year might be hard to watch if you're a Maryland football fan. You didn't get to watch nearly as much as you thought you were going to be able to watch, but right, it's not like they went 0-5 in those 5 games. They beat Minnesota, beat Penn State, got beat by the 2 of the 3 best teams in the Big Ten pretty handily in Northwestern and Indiana. But it also and just giving, it's also just a win to have a cause for excitement, right? And I feel Maryland football is. Right, it's an average at best football team in a conference that always has at least one of the best teams in the sport. So it's not like you can convince yourself very many years at all that you have any chance of making any real noise in the Big Ten. So having these victories on the recruiting trail and things like that are always a good thing for a program like that and for a coach like that. And so, yeah, I'm here for that one. But, yeah, you're right. That is a left field to pick a team that didn't actually play a game this weekend when all of those when so many other things happen. Chris, who's your winner?
My winner, it's I guess more on the pat, more on the not the pat, not the. It's more on the what you might expect, might what you probably heard about from this weekend, of course. Um, it's Texas basketball.
W.
Um, right, this was a crazy weekend. It was a pretty crazy first weekend of 2021 for college basketball, particularly with some upsets on Saturday, and that included the most lopsided loss Bill Self has ever suffered inside Allen Fieldhouse. Texas defeating the Jayhawks by 25 points. Now, obviously, the lack of fans has to be, and the craziness of the season has to be taken into account, but this is still just an absolutely absurd thing. And, a lot of people, at least and myself included, of course, have been assuming that the Big 12 was really looking at a two-team race between Kansas and Baylor. And it still very well could prove to be that way. I'm not saying that, I'm not making some bold proclamation, but I think it's very possible that we could be looking at a three-team race. Texas just hadn't gotten a chance to prove itself on a big stage yet, and that's exactly what they did over the weekend. It takes a great team to beat Kansas at home, and it takes a really special team to embarrass Kansas at home.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. It's not a fluke. Like, it can't be a complete fluke when a team goes out there and does that to Kansas at home. It's really all coming together. This is year 6 for Shaka Smart with the Longhorns, and in this game, I mean, it was very convincing in the sense that they showed that they had the personnel, the experience, the depth, all these different pieces to be a really elite team. It's clear that they have leadership in their upperclassmen. It's clear that they've turned a corner. I think right now they have this incredible trio of guards. They have these pieces. They have one of the most talented front courts in college basketball. It seems like these players are bought in. And yes, of course, Kansas shot horribly in this game, because you're not going to have a game where this result happens where, there isn't something Kansas is just really struggling at miserably, and they're going to be better than that. It's not some sort of like Kansas is just a horrible team now. But it really looked like Texas brought the more talented roster to this game, and they had more playmakers. And I really feel like this is a team that's turning a corner here. And it's going to be really fun to watch and see what kind of impact they can make in this conference. I hope they get that Baylor game rescheduled that was postponed a few weeks ago, because that's going to be really fun to see. I can't wait to see that. But I think it's clear this team is ready to make potentially a run for the Big 12 as well.
And it's also like these are games that Texas didn't win last year, because this is basically the same Texas team from last year. You add Greg Brown, which is not unimportant. Kai Jones is awesome, and everybody else is just a year older. So all of those things turn a team that was probably going to make the tournament, but pretty close to a bubble team, into a top 10 team in the country when you have guys as talented as Shaka Smart has this season. But they lost to Baylor twice last year. They lost to Kansas twice last year. They just didn't beat good teams. And from the start of the season, they were beating good teams, right? They beat Indiana. They beat UNC. They lost to Villanova, but it was close.
Barely, yeah.
But barely. It was a 4-point loss, and that was the weekend that we were supposed to get Baylor and Gonzaga, and Texas and Villanova were the other two teams in the top 4 of KenPom that weekend, and that game took center stage on that Sunday, and it was a great game. But I love what you said, Chris, that Texas looked like the better basketball team. Now, if you ask me to pick which team I think will finish higher in the Big 12 rankings, I still might take Kansas, just because Texas competing for a Big 12 title is something they haven't really done in quite a while, and certainly something that Shaka Smart hasn't done yet. So, but it showed just how good this Texas team is. It also shows the real offensive concerns that you have with Kansas. Sometimes David McCormack just doesn't show up to games. When Christian Brown isn't knocking down 3-pointers, he's pretty much useless, and that's what he was in this game. He played 28 minutes. He was 2 of 10 from the field and 0 of 5 from the floor. He's a great rebounder. He always has been for his size, but if he's not knocking down shots, he's not doing a whole lot else on the offensive end. And you end up, and if Jalen Wilson and Ochai Agbaji don't have great games, then you end up scoring somewhere between 55 and 65 points, and if the other team has a good offensive day, or just a decent offensive day. I mean, Texas was 49% from the field, 46% from the 3-point line. Certainly good, but not one of those games. It's like, oh, that's a once in a season game that Texas had offensively. Right. That's not the vibe that you get from those numbers. You get lopsided games like this if you have those two things happen on the same day, and that's what happened here.
Yeah, all I will add to the roster conversation is Josh and I talked about this on our podcast. From the before a game was played, there's an argument that Texas is the most talented team in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. Maybe you take Baylor. That talent is there. Yeah. It's a question of whether that can translate into the team that you saw on the floor in that game. Mm-hmm. But there is no disputing how good those players are.
Nope. Without a doubt. My winner is the Buffalo Bills. You know, at the foundation of it is they won 56-26 this weekend, but, you know, you get the 2 seed, which doesn't mean as much as it usually does, granted. But they ended the season so strong. It's losing to the Dolphins would have been fine. The Dolphins are a good football team, but that's not the way you want to end your season prior to going into the playoffs. And not only is that not how they ended their season with, you know, they've won games 26-15, 48-19, and 38-9 the 3 weeks prior, and this was their most dominant, impressive, whoa, what the heck are the Bills doing performance. And for a team that is to a certain extent starting to wade into uncharted territory, like when was the last time you really thought the Bills had a chance to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl? Off the top of my head, I don't know.
It's been a while.
Not in our lifetime, probably.
Right.
Or pretty close.
So the point being is that I think it's important for a team like the Bills, who are kind of doing something that at the very least they haven't done in a long time, to feel this momentum in this way. Because, right, if Tom Brady loses the last game of the regular season, we know what Tom Brady does in the playoffs, and Tom Brady knows what he does in the playoffs. So it's not like he's going to lose any confidence from losing the last game of the season. And maybe the same can be said for the Bills, but I think it's more important for a team like this that is really, really good for the first time in a long time, and, you know, with a young quarterback, and everybody in this organization and on this team is, you know, basically doing this for the first time. I think it's important to end the season as strong as possible, and nobody has ended the season as strong as the Bills have. And now you get to continue to carry that momentum rather than there being a little bit of a speed bump. You go and beat a Dolphins team that had every reason in the world to win this football game, right? And you beat them handily, and you made sure it was clear who the better football team was. So I went with the Bills. I'm excited to see them in the playoffs. Hopefully Josh Allen is one of those guys that is still good in the playoffs and not a guy that sort of cripples under pressure. But they've set themselves up for success and have all the momentum in the world as we move into the wild card round next weekend.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think this is a team, I'm with you 100%, where this is a team more than almost any other in this playoffs, where having that confidence going in, having that quarterback like Allen who has that confidence makes just a ton of difference, more than I think any other team that's in the playoffs.
Josh, quickly, you're a loser.
My loser is the ACC.
On both sides, on all sports, or just basketball?
No, pretty much all. I mean, okay. You can't win a bowl game.
Nope.
0-6, headlined by Clemson, Notre Dame, and North Carolina. North Carolina put up a good showing. The other two did not. Then you've got all 4 ranked college basketball teams supposed to play each other, and they have their games canceled. Duke, Florida State, Virginia Tech. So if these games don't get rescheduled, you're missing opportunities for quality wins in a conference that's not looking good. Right. It was just tough go all around.
Yeah, very, very bad weekend for the ACC. Really not anything to hang your hat on.
No.
Chris, your loser.
West Virginia basketball. This is a team that got off to a pretty good start to the season. They were number 9 in the AP poll. That is going to change today. Were off to an 8-2 start. Their only losses were to Gonzaga and by 5 points and at Kansas. They got upset by Oklahoma over the weekend. They shot just 23% from the field in the first half, and from there they were able to climb back, but it wasn't enough. And so that's obviously a part of the reason that they're a loser on its own. But the bigger thing is also this could be just the beginning of bigger problems for them. Back on Friday, it was announced that Oscar Tshiebwe, one of the best freshmen in the country last year, he's stepping away from the program for personal reasons. That came after a few days after the freshman big man, Isaiah Cottrell, tore his Achilles tendon against Northeastern earlier last week. So right, a few key like from that Oklahoma game, they lost the rebounding battle just the third time all season. Had one block as a team, so already feeling an absence of Tshiebwe there. Right, it limits them and their options offensively and defensively, their versatility. And they've got tough games at Oklahoma State, a team that just upset Texas Tech, and then Texas and Baylor in their next 3 games. So this is a team that could be in some real trouble without Tshiebwe and a rough stretch coming up.
This is already a team that's vulnerable with Tshiebwe and Culver in the front court because they have issues on the offensive end sometimes, and they're close in almost every game because they play good defense and they out-rebound you almost every single night. You basically cut that advantage in half, and that makes a small margin of error even smaller now. Without him, that's a massive blow. And then you just add to the fact that they're not healthy outside of Tshiebwe, and you get to play in the Big 12. Congratulations.
Yeah. He significantly lowers their ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They are built around having both of them. Tshiebwe is a massive loss.
So Brandon Johnson, he goes off for 28 points, 8 of 9 from Minnesota, makes him look like the best 3-point shooter and scorer in the country. Let's talk about Umoja Gibson from Oklahoma, who had 29 points on 8 of 11 shooting from the 3-point line against West Virginia. His game log so far: 9 points, 2 points. He had 0 points against Xavier in a 99-77 loss. 9 points, 14 points against Oral Roberts. 6 points, 11 points, 29 points. He's got 29 points, a 29-point performance and a 14-point performance, and he's still only averaging 9.9 points per game. That is the definition of we need to come up with a name for this award.
Yeah.
We need to do that. We need to figure it out. But that is a laugh out loud funny game log, and I have learned that I have an affection for laugh out loud funny game logs.
Maybe we should call it the Game Log Award.
The Game Log Award, something like that. I love it. My loser's Dabo Swinney, because you can't go call a team the 11th best team in the country and then go lose to them by 21. I don't care what you have or what you don't have. It's like the Browns losing to the Jets, right? I don't care if none of your receivers are there. It's the Jets. If you really are the second best team in the country, it doesn't matter what the 11th best team in the country has or doesn't, or what you have or don't have, especially if you still have Trevor Lawrence, Amari Rodgers, and Travis Etienne. Okay? Go win the football game. And that does nothing but motivate the other team. And with all due respect, Dabo Swinney, that's poor leadership. You're supposed to be motivating your team, and all that does is motivate the other one. What the heck? And then you go and lay a goose egg like that? If you really think they're the 11th best team in the country, then you should not have an issue with the 11th best team in the country as long as you still have Trevor Lawrence. That's as simple as it is. And Trevor Lawrence had a good game, and had some taking care of the football issues, but ultimately had a solid game. And you got smoked. I don't care what the external factors are here, whether it's injuries or targeting. I don't care. If it's the 11th best team in the country, win the football game, and all you're setting yourself up for is failure to say something like that and then lose by 21. Dabo Swinney is my loser.
And I brought this up when Chris and I were doing "What Are You Doing?" right after this became public. You should have known this was who you were going to play. This was the most likely scenario.
Yep.
And clearly they took this one personally. There was a lot of bulletin board material for the Buckeyes. Last season's loss, the fact that people didn't think they should be in the playoff, the fact they only played 6, yada, yada, yada. There were a lot of things. But they seem to really stick to this one.
Yep. and all you did was add motivation.
Yep.
And
no good can come from that.
And make your team think like they're just already better than the other team. And that's dangerous too.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. Double whammy.
Thank you for being a part of 110 Daily today. Bit of a programming change that we're trying out here. We'll be back on Friday to take a look at NFL predictions for the wild card weekend, all of that fun stuff. And we'll be going live from time to time in the middle of the week, whether it's for a game preview or to talk about breaking news. But we'll be back. Our next set show is on Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All three of us will be back then as well. But thank you so much for watching 110 Daily today, making us a part of your morning. We'll be back on Friday. Have a great week, and we will see you